Now, the next thing that I want to give you a video on, and bearing in mind that these aren't technical insights, they're just purely from a point of view of being practical and what I've found works best for me. I want to touch on the Raymarine Element 7 Sonar Echo, whatever you want to call it. And I bought this one secondhand. I also bought the transducer, which I won't show in this video because you don't need to see it really. It's just a plastic gizmo that goes on the bottom of one of your shaft poles and then pings the sonar for you. But I bought this secondhand. I think all in all, they cost around about £400 together. And this one actually came brand new in the box, even though it was secondhand, it was about half the price. And the transducer was about £190. The one thing I would say, as an aeroplane goes over, the one thing I would say is I did also use a standard deeper chirp while I was actually on this trip or on these trips, and I found that the Raymarine just gave so much more detail, was so much more accurate. I wouldn't say it was easier to read or use to a degree because you have to load it up. It takes about a minute for it to boot up and all the rest of it, but the Raymarine was just so much more consistent, gave a lot more detail on structure and hardness and all that sort of stuff. So we'll take the lid off because it comes with a little cover, which I did use during the rain. And you can see this is a bit dirty, needs a bit of a clean, but essentially without plugging it into a battery, you won't be able to use it. Now, I used the most simple settings on the Raymarine. I turned it on. And I used a split screen between the down vision element and the sonar, and that, for me, that gave me enough detail that I could see everything that I need to see. If you're someone that wants that extra step on from a deeper, from a chirp or something like that, I mean, personally, if you're going to France for the first time, do yourself a favour, buy yourself a second-hand deeper chirp, or even a cheap one, a phone mount and a boat mount for that. It's going to cost you probably somewhere in the region of £250. But the value that a sonar added to my trip was amazing. We wouldn't have known what depth of water, it would be guesswork. But we quite quickly discovered that we needed to fish in 16 foot of water rather than 12 foot, on the back of the snags rather than the front of them, etc, etc. And this was brilliant for that. You can mark waypoints on there, so if you're fishing a really, really big expanse of water, I was fishing about 150 yards out, so it wasn't such a big thing, with H blocks as well, so we knew where we were going all the time. But you can mark waypoints. It's really easy to navigate. It's not a touch screen, but believe me, because of the weather and you're outdoors exposed, I actually thought a touchscreen, like trying to use my phone with the deeper, was awkward. Using this though, just with the waterproof buttons, was brilliant. Now, one thing you need to be aware of when you buy one of these is you obviously need to buy a transducer, and you're going to need a battery, and you're going to need all the connectors for that. The transducer will come with the battery, but the Raymarine itself, which plugs in back for the battery, plugs in back here. The Raymarine will come with the things that you need to connect it to your battery. You might need to buy some crocodile clips and do a bit of manual work to link the crocodile clips to the wires at the back of these. I had to, and I had them sealed properly, and we've done that all properly, and all the wires are fused together safely. The other thing you need to be aware of is just under this little button here. I'm going to take this off really quickly. I should have done this before with no nails, but just under this little button, you do need an SD card. Without the SD card, you can't update the sonar. I'm not even sure it works properly, actually. I think you need the SD card in there, and it needs to be, I think, either a 32 or a 64 gig SD card. So you will need to buy one or have one laying around from your camera. I cannot recommend this enough. If I was doing more European fishing, I probably would buy it. I think there's a Raymarine Element 9, slightly bigger screen, and I might even be willing to buy the next version up from this, which is a touchscreen. But for my fishing, this was absolutely perfect. It comes with the mount, which is great, and you just screw that onto your mounting pole, tighten it up, and it will be there on your boat. Like I said, it does take a little while to boot up when you turn it on, but for me, European fishing for me is leisurely. It's not speed fishing. So if I know that I'm putting a rod out, I know that I can turn the Echo on, get the rod ready, leave it there. And the one thing I loved about this, bearing in mind I'm not sponsored by anyone here, but true review, was it didn't draw the life out of the battery, even though I left it on for 5 days solid, and I really, really did use it a lot. So if you're in the market for an Echo sounder, I'm sure there's others out there that are just as good, maybe even better, but this, for me, second-hand, with a second-hand transducer, for the right transducer for this model, was an absolute no-brainer.